College basketball catch-up show presented by Heinz. No, we got to make that happen, or else I'm going to continue to tell that joke every single week. And a good evening, everybody. Sean Brace. Depends who you're asking. I believe it's Ryan Coyle, also known as Beef. Could be Reed Blankenship, though, if you squint hard enough.
That was the sentiment of the day Saturday. There was a couple pictures taken, had some glasses on, had my hat on, had to roll with it. Why would I say no if I was asked that? Why would I say no on Saturday after the Eagles Super Bowl parade?
I'm wondering what you get a better vision of when you squint, a 76ers championship team or you as Reed Blankenship. I'm just wondering. Yeah, I think it's you actually. So you are the winner in that one. Nice work there. All right, Beef, we got a lot to discuss. Of course, it is that time of year where everybody is talking all things college hoops. And look, bottom line is we are way into the season, obviously, with only 5 regular season games left. And I believe you said before we started recording here, only 3 Saturdays left in the regular season. So conference tournaments will be here before we know it. Of course, March Madness, filling out those brackets. And no better time than right now to get a vibe of the college basketball season. I think there are some good teams. We talked about it, 5, 6, 7 teams, generally speaking, could probably get it done. Are we still feeling as strong about that? Because I'm starting to talk myself into more and more Auburn. And then maybe another team or two. But Auburn, to me, if they want to be the best team, as you saw on Saturday, that's a hard team to beat.
Yeah, Auburn, I heard today, 14 Quadrant 1 wins. A Quadrant 1 win is against teams that are 1-50 in the net. The next closest team to that is 8. And if you look at Auburn and their schedule the rest of the way, obviously playing in the SEC, playing in the SEC tournament, there's a chance that they're going to have over 20 Quadrant 1 wins. So potentially like the greatest regular season resume, of the kind of the modern era. Gonzaga few years back was favored was undefeated throughout the regular season, but that was a COVID year, obviously playing in the West Coast Conference. There's a good argument that this SEC is the greatest college basketball conference we've ever seen from top to bottom. And for Auburn to only have that one loss, and it's to Florida, who's a top 5 team in their own right, just a super impressive season. And then their other loss is on the road at Duke, and Duke's a team I'm sure we'll get into. They're playing right now against Virginia, but like the thing with Duke is, and why we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, it's like, all right, is Duke really that great, or is it a bad ACC? And you look at every game, Duke's favored by double digits, but they're winning every game by double digits. So at this point, it's just you got to accept the fact that Duke's really good. Alabama, I'm still buying into. I think Houston. I'm sure we'll get into kind of all the pretenders and contenders tonight, but Auburn, you kind of be looking stupid if you're not saying that they're the best team in the country as of right now on February 17th.
Yeah, and look, I watched Clemson beat Duke the other day, and Clemson has a couple nice wins, top 25 team. Not a team that I'm going to sit here and say can win the bracket come March/April, but that is definitely a team that you set them up with the right opponent come bracket time. I'm going to have a hard time picking against them. That's a fight. That's a tough team, physical, can shoot from outside. And look, these are the stories that we're going to continue to discover over these next couple of weeks if you haven't already. I mean, right hand in the air, I've been paying attention, but that's the beauty about college hoops is you continue to learn and continue to see new teams rise into the occasion. Some teams that played well to start the season are now fading a little bit, but it's an exciting part of the year, that's for sure. On February 17th, we're recording this. All right, back over to the game on Saturday. I know you were running around like a maniac, but you did catch up with a little bit. That's a tough win. That's a tough win to go into that environment. And I know that everybody had Auburn winning in that game. But you're talking about an Alabama team that was 21-3 heading into that, 10-1 in the SEC at home, college game day. It kind of felt like maybe that might have been a little detriment to them or something that kind of held them back a little bit. I don't know. But Auburn, to me, there was no luck involved. Auburn was definitely clearly the better team and played lights out in the second half when Alabama really found their groove. Really impressive victory. Their best on the year, in my opinion.
Yeah, and you could argue Alabama probably the biggest basketball game in school history, and for Auburn to go in there, especially after the week before, Auburn a 10.5 point favorite at home against Florida, and they lose that one outright. For them to be able to bounce back during the week against Vandy, take care of business, and then bounce back on the road, it would have been shocking if Auburn had run through the entire SEC schedule undefeated. They were probably going to slip up. I think a lot of people had that Alabama game highlighted as kind of the slip up spot. But for them to go to Alabama and get the win, just gives them another added juice to that resume, to that being that number one overall seed in the country. And when you kind of look and turn it the other way and look at Alabama, it kind of goes to show you the hit or miss quality with Alabama when they're at their best. You saw them go on runs in that game. You saw them tie it up, but Auburn never trailed in that game. Alabama has the ability to kind of flip that switch and go at their peak, but you bury yourself in a hole at the beginning, then you kind of got to run and gun your way back into it. Sure, you can do it, but when you play such a hit or miss style, depending on if you're making your threes or not, that's kind of the spot you put yourself in if you're Alabama. And more teams than not, they're going to be more talented. A lot of teams aren't going to be able to match up with them physically, mentally, athletically, whatever you want to say. But at the end of the day, if they're going to shoot that many threes and they're not going to shoot it that well from the outside, you're going to lose to a team like Auburn, to a team like Duke, probably once you get into the Final Four. But, I'm not leaving that game necessarily switching my tone on Alabama. I think it just gives a little bit more credit to Auburn and what that team's built this season.
We talked about the conference as a whole, the SEC. What's a team that maybe could sneak up and win it all come the conference tournament? What's a team that you think could match up very well in Auburn and catch them slipping in that tournament? Again, not the worst thing in the world if you do lose the SEC tournament. Nobody wants to lose, but it's definitely not something that's going to hold you back from winning it all. And especially this year when you just went as far as the depth in that conference beef. You're talking about, I mean, just you pull up the standings and it's just insane to go over it. Like, a bottom line is LSU is 13-12 on the season, 2-10 in the conference. I've seen LSU play some decent basketball. Georgia, 4-9 in the conference. I've seen Georgia play some decent basketball, and I think 2 games. Arkansas with Cal, 4-8. Texas just beat Kentucky at 5-8. Kentucky 6-6 in the conference. And you go to Ole Miss 8-5, Tennessee 8-5, Missouri had a big win, 8-4, A&M 9-3, Florida 9-3. Then you get the Bama and Auburn. Who's a team that you think, you know what, maybe we shouldn't be focusing on Auburn and we could spend some time talking about this team in the middle of the pack?
Not necessarily the middle of the pack, but it's a team that I've been high on for the past 2 to 3 years. They're sitting number 4 in the SEC right now, number 7 in the country, but that's Texas A&M. You could say no one is really talking about them as a national title contender. Would I put them in there? Probably not, but it's an experienced team. I think Buzz Williams is one of the best coaches in the country, and they have one of the best lead guards in the country in Wade Taylor. He's a type of player that has the ability to put the team on his back and carry yourself through the SEC tournament. But also, when you're kind of looking at this SEC tournament combined the SEC regular season, sure, it would be nice to win that and have that trophy in your trophy case. Say that you won the SEC in the most dominant year of the conference's history, potentially. But do you really want to go through that gauntlet and then go into March as well? Like, that is going to be even more difficult potentially than running through an NCAA tournament, having to beat, like, on the way to a championship, beat a Tennessee, beat a Kentucky, beat a Texas, and then just to get matched up with like Alabama or Auburn in the finals, like, that is going to be a gauntlet in itself. So I think if you're looking at the SEC, kind of stupid, but teams might not even kind of go pedal to the metal if they're like, all right, we can't really improve our seed that much. Let's, not exert all options here if we want to keep the big picture in mind, because I really do think getting through that tournament is going to be incredibly difficult. And then to bounce back the next week to go to the NCAA tournament, it's going to be even harder.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the Big East. Shift gears. We caught St. John's in action up at Villanova. Tough loss by the Johnnies in that one. Nice win by Villanova and a much-needed win, to say the least, at that point in time. However, they did fall flat, if we can be honest, on Saturday night. But moving off of the Cats, let's talk about the conference as a whole. Who are you looking at? Who's catching your eye right now in the Big East? St. John's currently 13-2 at the top in conference, 22-4 overall. Creighton 11-4, Marquette 10-4. Then you got UConn, Xavier, Nova. But for me, it's got to be the top 3: Marquette, Creighton, and St. John's. And if I didn't come away all that impressed with St. John's, Is there a team out there that maybe I should be paying attention to from the Big East perspective, or is this conference mute in your mind?
Yeah, I think you're kind of looking at this as a four bid conference, maybe a fifth if a Xavier or if a Villanova, got hot and won the conference tournament. But I don't think you're getting anything outside of four bids in this one, barring a miracle. Well, with St. John's, Creighton, Marquette, and UConn making it. UConn is crazy. Like, what are you getting out of UConn? They go to Creighton the other night. Creighton had been playing some of the best ball of any team in the country. Freshman Liam McNeely has a career night, 30-plus points, and they go to Omaha on Dollar Beer Night and get a win just to turn around and go and lose at Seton Hall, who went into that game with only a 1-11 record in the Big East and only a 6-18 record going into that game. Like, that's an inexcusable loss, especially on the backs of what Hurley was ranting and raving about after the game, being after beating Creighton. For them to lose that game, it's like, what UConn team shows up? Am I going to be buying into them? I don't know. The thing about St. John's, and after leaving that Villanova game with them, like, I didn't leave that game saying I'm not impressed with St. John's or I have a different tone on them. I think they're huge. I think we saw that in person. Like, that is a big team at every spot. It looks like, their smallest guy is like 6'3", 6'4" at the guard spot. They play defense. They play really hard. Obviously, they have the best coach. They might have the best coach in the entire country in the entire tournament. They just didn't really shoot the ball that well that night. And Eric Dixon made 3 threes from the parking lot to basically just save the game. Like, no good offensive sets out of Villanova. St. John's shut everything down. And, 1-2 seconds left. The luck was just kind of on Villanova's side that night. So I'm still very impressed with St. John's. They find a way to bounce back yesterday at home. I think that's a Final Four worthy team for sure. And I think I'm going to be buying into Rick Pitino going forward because outside of the SEC, there's not many teams I'm looking at like this is a Final Four team for sure. I think St. John's with that coach, they get a right draw in the bracket. They're probably going to be, I say at this stage of the game, or a 3 seed, maybe even a 2 seed. They get some favorable draws. No one's going to want to match up against them.
All right, big win by Michigan on the road at Iowa State yesterday. Excuse me, that was front and center on the TV last night or yesterday afternoon. Trying to catch up on some college hoops, and that's what we're doing right here. Is there a mid-major beef? Let's throw one off you here. Is there a mid-major that has your attention right now that maybe we should be paying attention to? Is there one that's better than the other out there as far as conference winners are concerned?
I tweeted about Drake earlier in the week, last week. They beat Illinois State, then they lost to Bradley yesterday, who's like the second best team in the conference. But they're 23-3. They play really good defense, and their coach comes up from Division II, like Missouri, one of the Missouri colleges in Division II. I forget it right now, but Ben McCollum is his name. National championship winning coach at the Division II level, takes over, brings a bunch of D2 guys with them, and they didn't miss a beat. This has been a really good Drake team this year. I don't think there'll be an at-large team, but if they win the Missouri Valley Conference, which is usually one of the funner conference tournaments, they're a team that could give some people some trouble just because of the defense that they play and like the pace. They're going to be in kind of any game. They're 13-3 right now in the conference, 23-3 overall. Before losing to Bradley yesterday, they had won like 12 games in a row. The only 2 games that they lost were in the middle of the season back-to-back. So they started out like 11-0, then they lost 2 in a row, then they won their next 12. So it's a team that's been really good throughout the entire season. And you can look at kind of the Mountain West too. I don't know if we consider that a mid-major, but New Mexico's having a really good year. They're 22-4. Utah State as well is having a really good year at 22-4. So those are teams that, if they both get into the tournament, they'll probably be like an 8 or 9. Drake probably more in that kind of 12-13 ballpark. But I'd say as of February 17th, kind of those are the teams I'm keeping an eye out for. And then Akron as well in the MAC. They've been the top team in that conference pretty much over the past few years. They have a chance bringing back a lot of experience, a 13-game winning streak right now. Those are, some of the mid-major teams, under the radar teams I'm kind of keeping an eye on at this point.
All right, let's play either or here as I have bracketology open in front of me from Joey Brackets here on ESPN.com. It's interesting when you do put the seed next to some of the teams' names, such as I'll give you Tennessee as a 2 seed. And I could understand why in that conference, their record, that's understood. But, it is intriguing when you slap that number right next to them. And then let's just say for S and giggles, you get a team like Gonzaga, 20-7 on the season as an 8 seed. You get Illinois as a 6 seed. Let's see here. Clemson as a 7 seed. Tennessee is a 2 seed. Are you comfortable with them making a run? How good is Tennessee in your mind?
I'm not bought in on this Tennessee team compared to last year. I really liked them last year. I had a couple of futures for them to win it all. They've wound up falling short in the Elite Eight to Purdue, who obviously goes on to the finals and winds up losing to UConn. But that team had Dalton Connect. This team does not. That's really what it kind of comes down to me. The Rick Barnes Tennessee teams have all been kind of in the same mold. Bunch of athletes. They're basically like a football team. I kind of compare them as really physical team, play great defense, but they've really had struggles on the offensive end at points. They'll man you up, they'll beat you up on the defensive end, but they've struggled to score. Last year they had a guy in Dalton Connect who you could give the ball to and be like, all right, we need 25 to 30 from you tonight. Our defense is going to do the rest, and the rest of the guys are going to fill in kind of the gaps. They don't have that this year. Chaz Lanier has been pretty solid, but he's a transfer from North Florida. He's been up and down in his kind of first year at high major basketball. Zakai Ziegler, really good experienced point guard, but he doesn't really offer you that much in terms of scoring. So I still think Tennessee is going to kind of run into those same problems that we've seen in the past without Dalton Connect on the roster.
Interesting. All right. As far as the 1 seeds right now, no surprise there. Bama, Auburn, Florida, and Duke. You have any arguments with Florida as far as one of the 1 seeds?
No, I haven't been fully bought in on Florida the entire season, but I think kind of their performance is speaking for itself at this point. No one has obviously gone to Auburn and won this year, and they did that comfortably. I think that they won that game by like 9 or 10 points was the final outcome. So that's a team that if you haven't been bought in yet, buy in now. Elijah Martin, Florida Atlantic transfer too, has been out some of the recent games. So once he's back and that team's back to full strength, with the way that they played the entire season, and it's kind of hard to write them off at this stage.
All right, stay with that game. What is your thoughts on Clemson? You didn't really give me a thumbs up on thumbs down on that one. They're 7th spot right now. They currently have them matched up with Nebraska to open up first round action here in the South region, which is taking place down in Atlanta.
Yeah, Clemson is a team that I'm definitely in on. Another team experience, returns a lot of guys from last year. Ian Shefflin, if you don't know the name, know the name now because he's a guy that you're going to see in the NCAA tournament, and he's going to be, either one of those guys that you love or you hate. He just does all the little dirty things, gets the rebounds, charges, dives for loose balls, but he can also hoop a little too. He's like the quintessential glue guy. Every year before March Madness, I do kind of the 10 to 15 podcast like underrated players to know as you go into March Madness. And Ian Shefflin and that Clemson team made a deep run last year. Not the same team this year, but a team that returns experience. They just beat Duke just 2 weekends ago. So it's a Clemson team that is a pretty good and pretty experienced team. I really like Houston. I think that's who they have a matchup up with right now in the newest bracket. If I'm looking at the most up-to-date one, that's like a matchup that I wouldn't necessarily love if I'm Houston, but Clemson's certainly a team as a 7 seed that I could see, if they play like a Purdue, I could see them winning that game. If they play a Tennessee, I could see them winning that game. If they're a team that I don't think I would be afraid of picking them as a potential upset over a 2 seed if they do fall into that 7 line.
All right, let's play now over to another game. Let's play buy or sell. Similar to either or, but different titles so that people will buy into it a little bit more. And it's better for when we cut up the video for segments. All right, Ryan Beef Coyle. Let's talk about Michigan. Michigan good enough to make a Sweet 16 run this year?
Yeah, I'm definitely buying Michigan. Another thing I tweeted out earlier today, they've won their last 5 games in a row, average margin of 3.8 points per game. So you can look at it either way. It's like, all right, this team's playing with fire and it's going to come up to catch them in the tournament. Or you can look at it as like this is a team that just knows how to win games, knows how to win close games. They're going to be as battle tested as they come for the NCAA tournament. Another team that plays kind of a unique style. Danny Wolf at point guard. He's like a 6'10", not really athletic, but just can see over the defense, runs the pick and roll. And it's a fun Michigan team. They got beat up on, or excuse me, they have a big matchup coming up this Friday against Michigan State. And they've had a couple duds that they got beat up by Purdue about 5 or 6 games ago before this 5-game win streak by 20. But since then, they're on a 5-game winning streak in a really tough conference there in the Big Ten.
Yeah, they are on top of the Big Ten, 6 games to go. and a nice win, as I said, on Sunday at Ohio State. So that team could be one that I would start to lean to as far as filling out the bracket and have them going a little bit further. I'm buying into Florida. I'm buying into Clemson a little bit more into Michigan after that big win. Still ways to go, like we said, with 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, 3 full Saturdays until we get into the conference tournament. So we have plenty of action and, of course, time to debate one of those matchups when they do roll around. All right. What else did we miss in college hoops from the weekend? Anything that you want to get off your chest? As you said, you're very active on social media.
I would say Kentucky, like they're another team, as we talked about, the gauntlet that is the SEC, but they've been just like fickle for me. They've just been up and down, like really good at home. Then they go to Tennessee and win. Then they lose at Texas, who I'm not a fan of this Texas team, but Vegas was telling you kind of everything you need to know with that one, as Texas was a 3.5-point favorite. Another team similar to Bama, where they shoot a lot of threes. Are they going to make them? That probably dictates how far they go. And one team that I would like to bash on right now, Kansas. Kansas is a team that I think is fully bought into like that NIL mindset of just like these guys are there to get paid, get a bag, and don't care about college basketball. They don't want to really be there. They're just there collecting a check at this point. They lost at Utah on Saturday night. Utah is one of the worst teams in the power conferences. Just an inexcusable loss for a team that came into the season #1 in the country, national title expectations, a favorite to win it all, you name it. And they've now fallen apart over the second half of the season, back-to-back years. They did the same exact thing last year. It's a Kansas team that has found no consistency in recent weeks. I believe, like if you look at their recent schedule, it's a pattern of win-loss, win-loss, win-loss. They haven't been able to put 2 in a row in like close to a month. That Houston game, I think, might have broke that team where they collapsed at Fog Allen Fieldhouse. But Kansas is a team I'm certainly looking to fade and isn't playing their best basketball as they head into March, and that's for sure.
All right. Before we get out of here, we're gonna stay with the games theme here on a Monday night, but from the weekend, from yesterday, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, up at Illinois, did you catch that one with the jersey being dropped from the rafters and it was upside down?
Yeah, I did see that Saturday night.
Terrence Shannon Jr. It was during Saturday's basketball game. I apologize, against Michigan State. Sparty got him in that one. The banner showing his retired jersey upside down when it was revealed at halftime. Now, I could just promise you this, that people don't want to do that stuff on purpose, but that stuff can't happen, man. That's a bad job. You got one job. Well, I think I know how. Because you look at it, the way it drops, it looks like it could be confusing. So what they did, so when you drop it, it's like the heavy part will go down first, right? That's the way it should be. So it's like you just put the heavy part on the bottom part, if I'm making sense. And if you watch the video, you'll see it. And then the heavy part stays up top and poof, it unravels the wrong way. So you could see how they hung it up the wrong way. That's what happened.
But you don't even do like a trial run? You don't practice it at least once? Is it like that hard to like re-get back down?
That's a good question. I don't think you can. But you should.
The craziest part was that they still put it up. Like it still went up in the rafters upside down.
I didn't see that.
They didn't say like, oh, sorry, like we'll have to fix
apologized. The athletic director was all like, hey man, somebody lost their job. I would say that's interesting because I don't know. Yeah, there's no way I'm pulling it up to the rafters upside down. No way. No way. Nope, it's not going up. It would go up after the game. There's no way I would put it up upside down. I didn't see that. Wow, I feel for them now. All right. Last but not least, Ryan Beef Coyle, you might have had the liquid courage going on down there at the Polar Bear Plunge over the weekends there, or it might have been a little carryover from Super Bowl week, the 3 weeks leading up. Who knows? But you did tweet at me that you essentially could compete with some of the great minds in college basketball. This is March. As far as if I throw you a name for a college basketball team, you could tell me the coach of that team.
Liquid courage was probably involved, but I think if you name me a Power 5 coach, I bet you I could give it.
All right.
I
First
don't
of
know if I
all,
could give you the UC San Diego like Rothstein. Maybe if you gave me like a week to study. But if you gave me a Power 5 coach, I'd be pretty confident that I can name him.
all right. Now, like we said, I did see that. Yeah, John Rothstein was the gentleman's name. That was, of course, This Is March. Everyone knows him. He's insane. There's a video out there that he can name everything, and it's absurd, and it's real, and it definitely it's a hat tip. It's a hat tip video. Like, oh, okay, you want to be? How about for all the young whippersnappers out there, Beef? You want to be somebody in college basketball? No, the rosters like that, man. As I'm looking down at this stuff, how about this? I know you can name the Baylor Bears coach, right?
Scott True.
That's easy. Have you know how long has he been there? When do you think he got hired?
03?
What? How the hell you know that?
I'm Beef.
Come on, Beef. Yeah, 2003. All right, let's go. Let's fire this up. Boston College.
Earl Grant.
Okay.
Formerly at Charleston.
Who's the Charleston coach?
Chris Mack.
All right. Who's East Carolina's coach?
I don't know the name, but I know he was an assistant at Tennessee before.
Michael Schwartz, ring a bell?
Assistant at Tennessee.
All right, there you go. Iowa coach.
Fran McCaffrey, pride of LaSalle High School.
Yeah, I knew that one. Kansas State.
Jerome Tang.
LSU.
Matt McMahon.
Marshall.
Is it still D'Antoni?
Incorrect.
Nah.
Cornelius Jackson.
Damn. I would not have got CJ.
Minnesota.
Ben Johnson.
Dude, that's impressive, man. NC State Wolfpack.
Kevin Keats.
Wow. How about Oklahoma State?
Lutz. Steve Lutz.
Yes. Oh my God. The Buckeyes.
Jake Diebler.
Beef. Impressive, bro. Impressive. How about Pitt?
Jeff Capel.
TCU?
Jamie Dixon.
UCLA.
Mick.
Washington Huskies.
Danny Sprinkle.
Dude, are you kidding me?
You doubted me.
Wisconsin.
Greg Gard.
Beef, I'll give it to you, bro. That's impressive. That's impressive.
Marshall, East Carolina.
Yeah. Look, just as far as rapid fire, you don't know where they're coming from. I was impressed, man. You do know your head coaches in D1. I like this. We're gonna have to test this a little bit more as we move forward. And of course, getting down to the nitty-gritty. College hoops. We do have some good games going up on Monday night. We'll recapping it all on Tuesday. And make sure you're checking out all the daily ticket 3 to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. Giving Beef a follow at Ryan Coyle 35. And the college basketball catch-up show. We'll do one a little bit later this week because we do have to catch up on some time ourselves. But we figured no better time than right now to get a recording in. And I was surprised that Beef had a voice.
Yeah, I'm recovered. I said this is a go time next month. We got a month till St. Patrick's. Big week, big month ahead. Grind, back to the gym, voice recovered. Party. The month of partying is behind us.
How about food prep today?
Maybe some
yeah, exactly.
You food prep?
Yeah, dude. How about that?
I got Chinese Min Ma or something across the street from Great American Pub. It's pretty good.
How was it? Good?
Yeah.
What's your go-to Chinese order?
Well, my food on Saturday was 6 saltine crackers at about 11, and then a bag of Doritos from Wawa at about midnight. So that was Saturday. So I need to catch up on meals. But I just got some General So's, the combination platter, couple fortune cookies thrown in there. Got a food shop tomorrow.
That a boy. Them Heckler boys. All right. Beef, great stuff as always. Give Beef a follow. Ryan Coyle 35. Impressed. We'll cut that up. Get that up over on our YouTube channel as well. Subscribe. Tell a friend at Fox Sports The Gambler. Everybody, good luck in those plays. As always, if you miss anything, foxphlgambler.com.